All right, here we are then. And well, nobody's watching it, so I can feel perfectly free, I suppose. Anyway, having said that, I'm going to talk about olive oil. Yeah, well, maybe it's a bit of a first world thing, but the price of olive oil has shot up. It's ludicrous. So here in Australia, we produce quite a bit of olive oil, right? Nothing on the scale of the Spaniards or the Italians or probably Turkey even, or the French even, or maybe a few other countries, but we produce our own olive oil, right? Now, what's happened is it's become incredibly bloody expensive. So round about probably 6, 7 months ago, you could get it for about $38 for a 3 litre. I'll just turn my phone over, it's annoying. Um, Not that a lot of people get in touch with me, of course, you can understand that. But anyway, so mostly spam, mostly spam. So what's happened is it was about $35, $36 on special, right? Round about a few, I don't know, probably 8 months ago, 6, 7, 8 months ago, something like that. Now it's gone up to like $65 a tin. This is like for 3 litres. So it's around about $21, $22 a litre. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, why is that? Okay, so in Europe in particular, there's been a shortage of olive oil, right? Because they've had all sorts of things like diseases and droughts and all of that sort of stuff. So there's been a shortage. Anyway, I thought to myself, being the journalist I am, I thought, well, hang on a minute. That's all very well, but why is the price going up in Australia, right? Why would it affect the price in Australia? So I talked to this guy, Michael Southern, his name is, lovely guy actually, and he's the head of the olive oil, whatever it's called here. It's funny, isn't it? Nowadays, people wouldn't tell you what his official title is at all. They wouldn't bother, right? They just go, "Oh, he's a head honcho at Olive Oil Australia." And it's not called Olive Oil Australia, but anyway, he's a lovely bloke. And I was talking to him about this, and I said, "Okay, why is it going up in Australia? Because we're growing our own olives, right? We don't care if less olives come in from Europe, right, or less olive oil. We don't really care. All we care about is that we can buy Australian olive oil, right? We want to buy it at the same price we've always bought it at." Anyway, he explained it to me, right? Capitalism 101, I suppose. He said it's supply and demand. I said, okay, fair enough. But why does what happens in Europe affect the price of our own olive oil that's grown here in Australia? I'm just going to digress a minute here, but I'm still going to talk about olive oil. Here's the weird thing. If you go back to the 1980s, right, very few people in the UK, for example, as I'm sure it was the same here in Australia, used olive oil. It used to be occasionally seen in pharmacies, right? That's what it was. It wasn't in supermarkets. Actually, in the 80s, yeah, we did have supermarkets, but it wasn't seen there, right? People in Britain, particularly, did not see it as something that you would use, right? They didn't think about it. They use olive oil. They'd use vegetable oil, right, to fry stuff, or butter, even, right? But not olive oil. They wouldn't even think about it. And the weird thing is this: I went on a press trip. As I've said before, I was a motoring journalist for many, many years. I used to go on press trips all the time. What used to happen was, usually at the end of the trip, they used to give you a present. We always called it the bribe, as you would. And, it was kind of, I suppose, we called it the bribe because we thought they're trying to bribe us to write great things about this car or that car. It was a load of rubbish, really. I mean, we were just perfectly honest. Seriously, we were about the cars. If they were crappy, they were crappy, right? If they weren't, they weren't. And we were very honest about it. The bribe didn't affect us. And you know why? Because every trip we went on, we got a bribe, right? So it kind of diluted the pressure that they could put on us. Anyway, it was very nice. Sometimes we used to get lovely, lovely presents. Okay, so I went to Italy on a trip. I don't know what car it was, but almost certainly it would have been a Fiat, possibly a Lancia, but I doubt it. A Fiat, I think, probably. Anyway, went on this trip, lovely place. Always when we went on these trips, you'd stay in these hotels. They were the best hotels in the world, right? They were the sort of hotels sometimes you go to them, and then like a year later, you'd be watching the latest James Bond film, and it would have been filmed in the hotel that you had been in, even in the same bedroom sometimes. James often had more success with women than most of us did, I have to say. but of course it's fictional, right? Just in case you were wondering. But anyway, point is, went on this trip. What usually happens on these car trips is you fly out there and then you team up with another journalist. So there's two of you in a car, right? So one to drive, one to read the map. Yeah, no GPS or anything. And then it was the good old map, right? And then you swapped over halfway through and you both got a chance to drive the car. And if you were lucky, you got with a decent journo. If you weren't, you were bored stupid by some boring bloke who was going on about Rovers in 1970s were the best cars ever. You know, that sort of thing. Anyway, so went to Italy. Okay, so usually the way it will work is this: plane lands, you would either go straight to the hotel or the cars would be there and you would drive the cars. Now, this particular, and if you went to the hotel, usually you drive them later or you drive them the following day or whatever, you know, and have a whole day's driving. You drive it for a day usually, and then you come back, you know, you fly back. So they were pretty brief trips. Anyway, this one, it was hot as, right? And I remember, and I don't remember everything about this trip, okay? It was quite a long time ago. And I suppose because they were all fairly similar, like one journalist said to me once, he said, oh, it's Wednesday, we must be in Luton, you know, or it's Thursday, we must be in San Moritz. And it was a bit like that, you know, I think they got a bit jaded about it sometimes, which really is one of the reasons I decided eventually to get out of motoring journalism. Anyway, that's another story, my friends. That's another story. But anyway, so get to the airport. This particular time, we didn't get into the cars, but we had a long drive in the bus to the hotel. I remember this. And when we got to the hotel, oh my God, I was so thirsty. It was ridiculous. You know, I was English. Well, I still am English, really, but I was typically English then, right? You know, wouldn't drink the local water. And it wasn't my fault, really. I mean, what would happen is if you're in a restaurant with all these motoring buffs, and they were all older blokes mostly, right? There were no women involved then. It was just blokes, right? And what they would do is, like, I remember once reaching for an apple on the centre of the table at a restaurant, and when I went like this, he slapped my hand. He said, "Don't touch it; it'll be dirty." Right? It's the same with the water. You're always warned against, don't drink the water in Europe. You know, it's not treated properly. You're going to have diarrhea for 15 weeks or never recover, and stuff like that. So anyway, I hadn't had a drink. Bottled water then, it wasn't a thing, right? Perrier probably existed in those lovely glass bottles, but bottled water didn't exist, right? You just got water from a tap, as you should. Anyway, that's another story. We'll talk about that another day. But look, get to the hotel. There's a bribe there, right? And the bribe is 3 bottles of wine. And I thought, oh my God, oh, this is great, you know. And I do like alcohol, mainly beer, actually, to be perfectly honest. But I thought, I'm going to have some of this. Anyway, I looked at them. They were in Italian. I had no idea what I was looking at. Wasn't a wine aficionado at that stage. Probably never have been, actually. But I had a bit more of a knowledge of it when I was a publisher of a few wine magazines. Another story. Talk about that another day. Anyway, so I looked at the wines. I opened one of them, glugged down a couple of mouthfuls, right? And I thought, what the hell? It was olive oil. It was olive oil. It was extra virgin bloody olive oil. And I was glugging it down. Anyway, that was that. I closed the bottle up. When I got back to London, a friend of mine, Mary, she was lodging in this place with 2 or 3 other people in London. Honestly, those are the days. They really were. They really were. It's quite fun in a way, you know. Anyway, I drove there to see her, and I was talking to her flatmate. Now he's a culture bloke, right? They're all about the same age. We're all in our 20s, but for some reason he understood about olive oil and how good it was. And I said, "Oh my God!" And I told him the story. And he said, "Hey, listen, if you don't want it," I said, "I definitely do not want it. What the hell is that? You know, olive oil, for God's sake." He said, "Oh, could I have it? Because I do like to cook with it." I said, "Cook with it? What the hell would you cook with it?" He said, "Anything, you know." I said, "Yeah, next time I come over, I'll bring it." And I did. I gave it to him. I'll tell you what, I reckon that olive oil was obviously really good. They spared no expense with the bribe. I reckon it's really good. I've always regretted that, actually, giving it to him. But anyway, there we go. Back to Michael Southern. So he was saying to me, I said to him, "Okay, how and why is olive oil so expensive now in Australia? Because we do not have a problem with drought at the moment, and I don't think we're ever going to have a problem with drought. I'll tell you about that again at some stage. Another story. I should write this down, shouldn't I? Anyway, I said to him, how does that work, right? We're here growing our own olives. Why should the European market affect us? Simple thing, right? He said, okay, so you look at the people in Australia who, and there may be big companies, there may be small companies. He said they are putting olive oil in tins, aerosols, right? You know, like these things where you go like, I'll just spray my pan with a little bit of olive oil. He said, excuse me, he said, those folks, they normally use a fairly cheap olive oil, right? But they can't get it because of the shortage in Europe. He said, so what they're doing is they're going to the Australian people and they're saying, can we buy that? The Australian people are going, of course you can. But what they're doing then is they're putting the price up, supply and demand. The demand is high, right? So they're increasing the price. They know that these folks have got to pay for it. I still don't understand why they need to increase the price for you and I at the supermarket, but they are, because I guess they think, you know, they can make hay while the sun shines, as it were. So that's what they've been doing, and it's a problem. Anyway, Michael said to me, it's going to be at least a year before prices begin to come down again, and the market in Europe is getting better now. You know, they're producing more trees, or not trees, they're producing more fruit, more olive fruit. So it's getting slightly better, but it's going to be about a year before prices come down. And the big question is this then. So you're sitting there thinking, what's he going on about olive oil? Olive oil is good for you, right? Numerous scientific studies have shown that, right? Now, if I was one of these, I'm not going to give you examples, you know. I'm just not, because people don't do that now, do they? I should, because I'm a journalist, right? And I like facts, and I like to understand what the truth is and things. But anyway, it's a short version, right? So it is good for you. Is it better than canola? Let me just tell you about canola. So canola is a vegetable oil, very, very common now. It's actually rapeseed, okay? And I think they had a problem with that. But, you know, rapeseed doesn't sound good, does it? Rape, you know? And what happened is the Canadians developed this oil, which is a rapeseed oil, basically. And it's genetically modified to be very efficient and very prolific in the fields. And that's why it's got the name canola. The can is from Canada and the ola is oil, right? I mean, why didn't they call it canoil? I don't know. But anyway, so that's what it is. Anyway, point is this. Even for you, okay, go back a sec. Extra virgin olive oil, how do they make that? Here's what they do, right? If they're doing it as they should be doing it. You get the whole olive, pick it off a tree, wash it. They put it in a big press, right? It presses the whole olive, so the olive and the stone, and they get the liquid out of that. That is extra virgin olive oil. Now, sometimes what they might do is screen it. In other words, put it through a filter, take out obviously the cloudy bits, if you like. It's pretty scientific, isn't it? The cloudy bits, and then you've got extra virgin olive oil, right? So no chemicals, no bollocks, right? Straightforward, good quality oil. Scientifically, it's been proven that olive oil is very, very good for you, and on numerous levels. Good for your heart, good for blood pressure. And let's face it, if you're not messing about with it other than just crushing it like that, that's got to be a good thing. Canola, on the other hand, like, it's not a bad oil, you know, in many ways. Like, it's not the most unhealthy oil, but what they do is a similar process. But the problem is they separate the oil from the plant using a chemical, right? I think it's called hexane or something. I can't remember. I should remember. I should have written it down. Being a good journalist I am, but I didn't. But anyway, that's the difference, right? They're doing that, and that's not obviously as pure as olive oil is. Also, the smoke point, as they say with olive oil, or with any oil, the smoke point with olive oil is incredibly high. Or incredibly. It's quite high, right? And that means you can fry things at fairly high temperatures. You can even deep fry using olive oil. A scientist came out recently, a couple of weeks ago, about that and said, yeah, you could do that, and that's a good idea. It's better than using other, oils. Personally, I don't deep fry stuff these days. I used to, now and again. Never deep fried a Mars pie. Well, Mars pie. a Mars bar. Why would you ever do that? I don't know. That's the Scottish Glasgow people. They used to do that quite a lot, didn't they? Anyway, so point is, olive oil. What do you do? Well, I'll tell you what I do. I'm still buying it, right? I'm just thinking a bit more carefully about it. And I'll tell you what, I'm like an olive oil nerd. When I go to the supermarket, I look at all the olive oil. I get the phone out with a calculator, and I minutely calculate what's the cheapest option. What I discovered this week, for example, is rather than buying a 3 litre tin from Cobram or Red Island, incidentally owned by the same company, Cobram, I don't think there's any difference between the two olive oils. I really don't. You know, they're just taking it from the same absolutely massive plantations, and they're building more. What's the matter with me? They're planting more of these things. So obviously, Australia potentially could become a very major olive oil producer, probably within 10 years, right? It's not going to happen overnight. Anyway, that's interesting in itself. Worth another story, I would say. But anyway, there you go. So, but olive oil is good for you, right? And if you're going to use an oil, you should use that, even if it's going to cost you a bit more. Use it more sparingly, maybe. But certainly restaurants, it seems at the moment, are mixing olive oil with, say, canola oil or other vegetable oils to try and keep the cost down. Now, it's really prohibitive. It is absolutely ludicrous how much it costs. Anyway, there you go. That's my diatribe, my overview on olive oil, which I love. I really do. Even though, yeah, I don't know. When you're young, you're going to glug it down thinking it's wine. But it's a really good thing. It's a really good thing, and it's very good for you. And yeah, save your money and buy some, I guess, and just be a bit frugal with your cooking oils, and then you'll be good. Anyway, look, I'll be back hopefully tomorrow, and yeah, there's no audience, but it's all right. I mean, sooner or later, maybe somebody will stumble upon it, you know. Or as Winston Churchill once said about the truth, he said, he's a man, he was talking about somebody or other. He said, he's a man, a politician, I suppose. He's a man who once stumbled over the truth, but quickly picked himself up and carried on as if nothing had happened. So, anyway, there you go. So, maybe somebody will stumble upon this at some stage, and maybe it'll go viral. Or probably not. Anyway, look, I have nothing much to do in the evenings. I don't mean that in a sad way. I can go to events and things, keep me busy here, but this is fine. It's raining outside at the moment, actually. I'm just going to leave you with this, which is an interesting thing. You know, when it rains, you feel comforted, don't you? You feel like you want to just sit in your bed, you know, and wrap up and just or maybe read a book, but it's comforting the rain. Why is that, right? I'll tell you what, on a simple level, on a 21st century level, the police will tell you crime goes down when it's raining, right? Because most criminals don't want to go out in the rain. Now, it's an amazing thing. Go back thousands and thousands of years, and they pretty much, I think, proved this, and it makes tremendous sense. When it was raining, people felt safe because predatory animals, dinosaurs probably, now that's bollocks, isn't it? Because dinosaurs weren't around when people weren't around when dinosaurs were around. Anyway, like animals or people, they wouldn't come out when it was raining, so you felt comfortable, right? Think about it. Think how comfy you feel when it's raining, right? And that's because you feel secure, you know, because nobody's going to come around and nick your stuff or attack you, right? So anyway, if it's raining, have a good lie in, and yeah, get to sleep early. All right, I'll be back again soon. You can't stop me, and you have a good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world, and take care. Take care. All right, off we go. I'll just turn this off now. Goodbye.